This is Countdown to the Grey Cup with Bill Kelly, delivered by Purolator on the Ticats Audio Network.
And welcome to Countdown to the Grey Cup. I'm your host, Bill Kelly, brought to you by Purolator. And we are really, really excited to be here today. Really, really excited to have the Grey Cup back in Hamilton. The show is called Countdown to Grey Cup. And by the way, for those of you scoring at home, 67 days until the kickoff at Tim Hortons Field for the 2023 Grey Cup. But we got a lot to talk about between now and then. We're going to talk about this year's festival, which is incredible. We're going to talk with some of the greats and Grey Cups past and some of their great accomplishments and their views on this. And we want to go around the league, too, because as we've been talking about, and anybody who's been a fan of football in Canada, the CFL is a family. The teams are all self-sufficient, yes, but they all rely on each other and they all support each other. And it's been that way for the longest time. That is until they strap on the helmets and get onto the playing field. It's a little bit different then. But we'll get to that in just a second, because one of our guests on the program today is, I know it's a cliche, but it fits so appropriately here. One of the all-time greats in the CFL, Danny McManus, is going to join us a little bit later on in the program and reminisce a little bit about, well, some of his Grey Cups, including 1999. Which was a day and a game for the ages. But right now, let's focus on what's going to be happening in the Hamilton and area for this Grey Cup. And to do that, we're so pleased to welcome to the program for this inaugural show, Matt Afinec, who is the President of Business Operations and the COO for Hamilton Sports Group. Matt, good to have you on the show. Thanks for jumping on today.
Well, it's an absolute honor and pleasure, Bill. I feel this great responsibility being on your first broadcast, and on behalf of the organization and Tiger Cat fans everywhere, welcome to the Ticats Audio Network officially. You've obviously always been part of, you use the word family, you've always been part of our Tiger Cat family as a great fan and support of the team. But to have you involved and be the voice of Grey Cup and other things on the Ticat Audio Network, welcome, and we're proud and honored to have you. And it's great to be here on your first show.
Well, I've been a fan. I mean, I've been involved with the Tiger Cats as a fan in one way, shape, or another for a long, long time. Did the stadium announcements for 13 years back in the day. And this was the natural transition to move to the Ticat Audio Network. I mean, with the technology and the talent that we have around here, and there's so much to talk about with this football team. And it's hard with traditional media sometimes to be able to get out to the people and get the message across. But to jump onto this forum and to be able to do this on a regular basis with some of the stars you've got here. You've got Fantus, and you got Hitch, and you got Morielli, you've got Bubba, and so many other great folks that are here. And they bleed black and gold too, just like you and I do. And it's an awful lot of fun to listen to some of the interviews and some of the folks that they bring on here. So having said that, let's start rocking and rolling. I remember a conversation I had with you back in 2021, which was the first time in a long time the Grey Cup had been played here. And that was just kind of coming out of COVID. It was still a big black cloud that was kind of over our heads. And they said, yeah, okay, we're going to have the Grey Cup, but you're going to have to scale it down, Matt. And I think a lot of people, when they heard that, thought, well, they'll probably play the game and have an awards dinner or something, and that'll be it. It was a hell of a week and a hell of a show. I mean, you kind of did it with one hand tied behind your back, but you and your volunteers and your staff did an outstanding job. But as I look at this lineup, I think the message here is you ain't seen nothing yet.
Yeah, we'd certainly like to think so. And for us, and more importantly for the fans, 2023 is what we had intended to deliver in 21. But frankly, we've also added to that. We've been fortunate to have some big events in town and some big events here at Tim Hortons Field since then. The NHL Heritage Classic, the Arkells Rally, amongst others. So we've applied some of the learnings from those, Bill, to make the game day stadium experience even bigger. But what I think fans can really look forward to, and what we announced a few weeks ago, and you can look forward to more announcements in the coming days and weeks, is really about that festival. So you think of Grey Cup, you think of Game Day Sunday, and certainly that's the magic. That's what we're all here for, is to crown the national champion of Canadian football. But it's that festival. You alluded earlier to the notion of the CFL family, and it doesn't really matter what team you cheer for. We're all fans of the CFL and fans of our country. And it's that at festival, at Grey Cup Festival, where that you really see that come to life, and you see fans from across the country in their colors coming together to celebrate just the common bond we have of Canadian football. So where that manifests itself here in Hamilton, Will be a lot of these events located in our central kind of downtown core, and the facilities located there within. But it's really that festival activity that you're going to see different than what you would have seen in 2021.
You've covered an awful lot of Grey Cups, of course, and I've had the pleasure of attending a number of them in different cities over the years. Do you think the fans are surprised when they see that reaction? You know, they come from Calgary, from Vancouver, from Regina, from Ottawa, and they come, well, in this case, to Hamilton. And there's a certain animosity, I mean, between some of these teams. And, you know, there's a little bit of bad blood from what happens on the field. But it seems when they get together for Grey Cup, it's a great big love in. I mean, you know, I even saw an Argo fan and a Tiger Cat fan walking hand in hand. I mean, it doesn't happen very often in this part of the country, but it does. There's something in the air during Grey Cup, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a great saying in the CFL community, which is the only place we compete is on the field. And I think you see that amongst the team. Well, but we all share in our collective success, certainly organizationally, as partners in the league in terms of running these franchises. And you certainly see that amongst the fans. Like, I think there's a genuine, you know, we want to beat you on the field and win the championship, win the Grey Cup. But I think at the end of the day, we all celebrate each other's fandom. So I would say that I think people who've been around the Grey Cup have been educated to that, or accustomed to that, to seeing it doesn't really matter who you cheer for. We're all fans of the CFL, even if we're Ticats fans or Stampeder fans. What I've always been fascinated to watch is maybe some of the more casual fans in the market where the Grey Cup is being played, where they seem to be the ones more surprised about, like, well, wait a second, like, why is that guy from Hamilton hanging out with that guy from Toronto? So I think amongst the existing CFL community, it's very pronounced. I think it's always exciting to the people in that local market when they see all these great people kind of coming together on a common cause or a common love.
And even if they're from a different city, in this case, everybody, you know, migrates to Hamilton. Each team and that fan base seems to kind of find a place and, okay, this is where we're going to meet. You know, we'll have a couple of beers here and then we'll go over and see what the Ticat fans are doing, et cetera. And that's organic, isn't it? I mean, that stuff's not really planned except for the individuals, but it kind of grows in and of itself as the week goes on, doesn't it?
Yeah, listen, at its core, Grey Cup is Canada's largest annual sporting event and is about driving sport tourism. And I think it's great what you see. We, as the organizing committee, put a ton of effort into planning these team parties and these team events. And in our case, the Convention Centre and First Ontario Centre and First Ontario Concert Hall and Bridgeworks and all these places around town. But some of the more magical stuff is just the organic stuff that you allude to, Bill. If you walk into a great bar and restaurant in Hamilton, it's just full of CFL fans. And that's not orchestrated. That's not planned. That's just a function of CFL fans coming together in these cities and doing what they can to support local business, support local tourism, and just celebrate Grey Cup in their own way inside of that market.
You crunch the numbers. What does this mean to a city like Hamilton from an economic standpoint?
Yeah, so Grey Cup in 2021, by reference, did $40 million in economic activity. A non-COVID impacted Grey Cup can do upwards of $100 million in economic activity. So we're ambitious, and I think the plan that we've laid out, including our plan to deliver some of these events regionally. Obviously, lots going on here in Hamilton, but also extending some festival events and festival accommodation, including a shuttle bus down to Niagara Falls, only allows us to bring more people into the region and celebrate these events in Hamilton. So we're working towards a record economic impact number. Obviously, we'll only know that after the event is over, but it's about putting the right conditions in place to achieve that, and I'm confident that we've done that.
You talked about the Niagara Falls circumstance. I'll circle back to some of the other stuff, but I want to talk about that. That's the awards dinner, which is always one of the highlights of Grey Cup week. And you've tried something a little bit different this year. We talked about the CFL and Canadian football fans being a family. A lot of the support here is regional. I mean, it's the Hamilton Tiger Cats, certainly, but that fan base extends down the Niagara Peninsula, up to KW, down to London. The Argos, of course, have a huge geographic fan base. Saskatchewan is the whole damn province. It seems the whole country sometimes, because you see those green jerseys everywhere. But to move one of the main events down to Fallsview, I think is a masterstroke.
Yeah, thanks. And like everything, it takes the effort of many, and our partners at the province of Ontario and the ministry and Minister Lumsden were instrumental in helping us bring this all to fruition. But yeah, you nailed it. Like from a Tiger Cat perspective, 37% of our ticket purchases come from outside of the city of Hamilton. So that number might shock a lot of people, but we are a regional product here. that descends on East Hamilton on Ticat game day, and really Grey Cup is no different. So as we thought about how do we make Grey Cup bigger, better, different than we did in 21 or different than it might be experienced in other places, it just kind of dawned on us that you've got this great tourism destination, one of the best in the world. I think those that are local know, but those that aren't don't necessarily realize it's 35 or 40 minutes down the road. Like, it's not far. And capitalizing on that ability to get down there, have places to stay, be able to get to and from Hamilton at no charge. The shuttle system between Hamilton and Niagara Falls is free. So that really solved a lot of issues. But as it relates to the player awards piece of it specifically, Bill, at the end of the day, it just came down to the opportunity created by the facilities that exist down in Niagara Falls. They've built this theater, OLG stage, 5,000 seat, is literally a world-class facility. So we'll do the player awards, or the CFL awards they're called, themselves inside a theater in Fallsview, which is beautiful, and then we'll throw the after event, a concert for 5,000 OLG stage. So that's what created the opportunity specific to that event.
Yeah, Fallsview Entertainment. I mean, they're synonymous. So, you know, that when they say there's going to be an after party, there's going to be an after party. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. And you don't have to worry about the drive. It's a sensational idea. And I think it's, again, other cities are watching us. And I know they watched you when we put on the rather truncated version, which was a huge success a couple of years ago. And they're taking notes, aren't they? Hey, that worked. Hey, that was a great idea. Because let's face it, it's going to be in their city someday soon, too. They want to make it work.
Yeah, and I think one of the we have 8 amazing organizations we partner and work with in our league. And I think one of the benefits to this is every Grey Cup situation is going to be unique to their market, unique to their franchise, unique to what they're able to accomplish and deliver. Obviously, Vancouver is up next, Winnipeg after that, 2 of the model franchises and organizations in our league. And we know that they'll elevate this even further. But if there's one thing I think we can show them, and we're hopeful we can, is just to use the best parts of your local market and deliver that in a unique way. I think we've talked about what we're going to do, from James Street to the Armories to all the facilities in walking distance, to maybe some innovation here with this regional concept around Niagara Falls and the ability to take not just the host market, but the host region and the host market. Maybe that's something that can be carried forward into the future.
And you talk about different cities and different regions will be kind of incorporating some of the stuff that they love to do in their communities. Calgary, a couple of years ago, when we were up there for the Ticat game against Winnipeg in the Grey Cup, of course, it's the Stampede and it's Cowboys, and that theme was there. For those of you who are coming into Hamilton, we like street festivals in this city. I mean, we've been doing it, and I don't think anybody does it any better than Hamilton does. One of your board members, Tim Hortons, of course, has been a genius when it comes to organizing these festivals. And we're talking about city blocks and blocks and blocks with bands every 100 yards and this and that and everything. And that's kind of going to be the theme for what we're going to be doing on James Street, isn't it?
Yeah, it is on James Street, and the relationship with Supercrawl, and obviously Tim is ultimately the operator of that organization. But I think it's representative, Bill, and the best representation of what we tried to do in planning this, which was to work with established local operators and events and try to parachute those experiences into a Grey Cup environment. So Supercrawl on James Street, certainly part of it, with the added addition of using the Armory, the John Foote Armory there, which is a remarkable 30,000 square foot facility. But then on top of that, things like the Hamilton Santa Claus Parade, the team at Around the Bay are programming a road race for kids, the YWCA doing their young women's breakfast. So the Sport Hamilton doing their celebration of, so trying to bring these constituent groups into the Grey Cup environment and putting a Grey Cup spin, like something like the Santa Claus Parade. You're going to see CFL alumni, cheerleaders, the Grey Cup itself, all programmed in as part of that festival. So bringing the community together, we thought was a good way to get more people engaged and interested that maybe aren't the biggest CFL or Ticat or Grey Cup fans, but just want to celebrate a great community event.
When I looked at some of the notes here on the media releases you've issued so far, you talk about Fan Central. What are we talking about here?
Yeah, so Fan Central for us is a collection of activity, Bill. So that's where Supercrawl will be. That's really James Street, the closure, the armories, and then all the activities that happen within there. We're just rather than using the word festival or street, we're just deciding to call it Fan Central because, like everything at Grey Cup, it's all about the fans, right? So it's an area for them to kind of descend upon. And as you know, as a local, as we all know, there's great places on James Street relative to bars and restaurants and places to hang out. So that will be branded as Fan Central, but that's the activity that's going on within there.
A lot of craft breweries. I mean, again, we were talking about organic growth in the economic community, and that's a great story on James Street. And I'm not surprised, of course, that the Tiger Cats are going to be part of that. Well, you were in the Grey Cup a couple of years ago, too, with a couple of events down there, and then some of the other events at one of the other halls.
I was there this weekend, Bill. I was down for sort of jumping in you, but I was there for Supercrawl this weekend. Like, it's just, it really has become this, like, you know, I say to Tim, like, you should be very proud of what they've built there. Like, it is this great representation of our community and the people and music and food and art and culture. Like, it's really awesome. So we, as a community, are proud of that, and it was awesome this past weekend.
Well, it started off as kind of a one-block festival for one night, and has grown to, well, from downtown all the way to the Bay, and it's just incredible, and it's going to be an awful lot of fun. And the old adage too, when you get together like this, you never know who you're going to run into. Fans from your community, fans from other communities. It's kind of a meet and greet at the same time, and it goes back to that relationship and that air of friendship that everybody seems to have at Grey Cup. Everybody's just there for a good time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the beauty of this is it provides, I think part of that release, you see we've a great relationship with the Hamilton Wentworth and Hamilton Wentworth Catholic District School Boards. They've decided to allocate one of their PA days on the Friday of Grey Cup, so there'll be lots of stuff to bring the kids down on Friday. But as we know, at the end of November in Canada, it can get a little bit cold, so you get the best of both worlds, really, that you can do all these things outdoors, and we know the weather will be a smashing heat wave at the end of November. But if in case the sun goes down, that we've got all these great things going on indoors, right? Over at the Convention Centre, First Ontario Centre, which we're going to be announcing the details of some significant concerts over the course of the next few weeks here. So more to look forward to. But just this combo of indoor activity that's free, outdoor activity that's free, some indoor activity that's free, and obviously some indoor activity that's ticketed. There's really something for everyone to do.
Let's talk about game day. The game itself, of course, is the pièce de résistance. We don't know who's going to be there yet. We're not even sure who's going to play the halftime show. And there are some significant names that have done that in the past. And you're being very tight-lipped about this. I don't know how you keep everybody on staff under wraps because there's been a lot of speculation about what's going to happen. That is an announcement that will be coming in due course, of course. But it's always one of the highlights. But there's other events going on during the game before the kickoff, too. I know the one of the ones that are the Friends at the Tiger Town Council, which is one of the great support groups here in Hamilton for the Tiger Cats within the business community. They're going to be sponsoring the Caretakers Game Day warm-up, which is kind of a good way to kind of get ready for football and at the same time, again, just kind of mingle and mix and match.
Yeah, so you're right. Our Tiger Town Council, our advisory group is just spectacular and just great people. Like what they do to support the team is frankly secondary to just the camaraderie of the group and how proud we are to have them associated with the franchise. The event that you referenced, like on game day, I think Tim Hortons Field, as we all know, is this unique setting where it's in a residential neighborhood, and I think celebrating that, calling it a neighborhood block party, and various activities to support that we just couldn't do in 21. So from all of these road closures that have to happen for security reasons, all of the streets around the stadium will be animated and activated for people to come down, music, food, you name it. The specific event, though, you referenced the game day warm-up, Bob is happy to put his name on that in conjunction with the council. But I think the point I would make, and that's a ticketed event, people can head to greycupfestival.ca. Tickets are on sale today, as of effective today. But it's over at the Bernie Morelli Center. And I don't know if people, a lot of the audience has seen, that's a great community asset that the city built literally across the street at Cannon and Balsam. So we'll be using that on game day. It's a beautiful building, glass, food, you name it, will be going on in there. But it'll be a good celebration. We're kind of thinking about it a little bit like a family reunion before you go and head over to the Grey Cup.
Yeah, it's literally steps from the stadium itself, and I used to park over there back in the day when it was just an empty
Scott
field.
Park, yes.
Yeah, it's over at Scott Park. So it's again bringing the neighborhood into this, and I think it's something that a lot of us had been envisioning and wondering, how's this going to play out? And you've got a blank sheet of paper, and you filled it in beautifully with all kinds of wonderful events, and still some to be announced. You mentioned about the webpage, and I want to, as we're finishing off here, talk about GreyCupFestival.ca to get information. A lot of the stuff that we've just talked about here are free events, which is great. You can, hop in here, get your hotel, and just kind of wander and do your thing. Some of them, though, are ticketed events, and it sounds like a cliche to say this, but tickets are going fast. Don't wait till the last minute, or you're going to be disappointed, because people come from all over the country for this, and they want to be part of this. So I would suggest sooner than later, like maybe in the next 10 minutes, go to the webpage, see what you can do, and get some tickets for some of these great events at GreyCupFestival.ca.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. I agree. Yeah, I agree. The demand's been awesome to date, and we've just launched. The other event I'd showcase relative to ticketed is, as an organization, we're very proud to have a great relationship with our alumni. They do so much to support us, and we just have such an engaged alumni base that's both local that are living here, but frankly that live all over North America and the world. And you'll see many of those names come back to Hamilton, be part of this. Ryan Donnelly, Jason Riley. That group is running, Leo Ezerin's running it day to day. But Friday afternoon, the alumni lunch presented by CarStar will happen at Leuna Station. And for those obviously that have been to Leuna, it's an amazing event facility. So we're looking forward to that as well. And tickets for that alumni luncheon are on sale now as well.
By the way, you're right. I'm glad you mentioned Leo Ezrin, who, of course, played for the Bombers and for the Tiger Cats. And he's the president of the CFL Alumni Association. You never know who you're going to run into. This is like your trading card, collection coming to life. You walk down the street, and some of the great CFL players from the past and the not so distant past are going to be there, and they're going to be out mingling. We went to the event Tim Potasek put on a couple of years ago down in the north end of the city, and I'm having a beer with Anthony Calvillo. Never thought that was going to happen. And there's pinball, and there's somebody else, and
totally.
they'll chew the fat with you, sign an autograph, and it's really kind of great to rub shoulders with some of the greats, isn't it?
Oh, it's the best. And you and I are CFL lifers, so it means a lot to us and fans like us. But, I think every Grey Cup you get that the other 8 teams are well represented. But I know it's a great source of passion for the 9th team, the team hosting the game, for their alumni association to really step up. And we've seen that from the Hamilton Tiger Cat alumni. The pride that they're taking in this event to make sure it's as big as possible. We have as many names there as possible. So this one will really be I remember going to the one last year in Regina. It was awesome. It was a bit of a rider love-in, of course, because it was in Regina. So we're looking forward to a similar Hamilton-style love-in on Friday afternoon at Leuna Station.
And again, go through the webpage to get all the information and order your tickets as soon as you can. It's GreyCupFestival.ca. Matt Afinec, who is the president of business operations and the CEO for Hamilton Sports Group, who are sponsoring and putting on and organizing this great event. Thanks, as always, for this. Always a pleasure. And I know there's more to come and more to be announced on this in the coming days. So we'll be talking with you again and again and again in the coming weeks.
And again, Bill, welcome to the Ticats Audio Network, and it's great to have you. Thanks for being part of this.
Thank you. Matt Afinec, thank you once again for being with us on the kickoff show. And it is an honor for us to be here on the Ticat Audio Network to be doing this. If you want to look for us, you can find us all sorts of places. The Audio Network is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just check it out. And there's some great folks that are doing shows on here, too, that we talked about at the beginning of the program. I want to do a little time out and talk about a couple of the other things, but we mentioned when we were getting the rundown for the show today about talking with some of the players who have had exceptional Grey Cups in the past and meant so much to this league and to their teams. And one of the best is going to join us in just a couple of minutes.
First and goal, Tiger Cats, McManus into the end zone. Touchdown! There's the touchdown for Darren Flutie. This Ticat attack. McManus looking in the end zone for Flutie. Touchdown! Batman's done it again.
Danny McManus, the most outstanding player this season, the MVP of the Grey Cup, and a Grey Cup ring. That's the hat trick in football.
Memories that will be with us as Tiger Cat fans forever. That was 1999, the Grey Cup. A victory for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, a much-deserved victory. And the gentleman who was one of the main engineers of that whole thing, and he was the trifecta winner that day, the most outstanding player in the 1999 league, the most outstanding player in the Grey Cup, and, of course, he's got the Grey Cup ring to prove it. Danny McManus, one of the all-time greats, is with us here on this edition of Countdown to Grey Cup. Danny, pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much for this today.
Well, thank you for having me. Anytime we get to talk about Grey Cups, I enjoy doing that. So,
well, and I was thinking we got to do something about this. First of all, 1999 was the last time the Cats won the Cup. It's been a while. There've been some ups and downs, but I want to put this in context, and to do that, as I've talked to you and a lot of your teammates from those days, you kind of have to put this in relation to the 1998 Grey Cup. Now, you guys had a great season in '98. Well, a lot of guys came into their own, and of course you and Darren and Coach Lancaster were the catalyst for all of this. You played Calgary in the Grey Cup. You played an outstanding game that day. It didn't work out. There were about an extra 3 seconds on the clock that we wish that weren't there, and Calgary kicked a game-winning field goal. And you came out second best in that particular time. When I've talked to you guys at Hitch and Morielli and others, they say, it wasn't revenge, but you guys started the 1999 season, even at training camp, I guess, with a purpose, didn't you?
Yes, we did. I mean, 98 was a bitter pill to swallow. We were able to turn things around from a very good team that year. We came together very quickly. And then to get all the way there and not be able to close it like we wanted to was a bitter taste. And a lot of credit goes to Coach Lancaster. At training camp, he showed the Calgary Stampeders Grey Cup highlights that they used to promote season tickets and stuff like that. And last thing we saw, I think it was Rocco Romano riding on the horse at the end of the game holding the Grey Cup trophy. So he just turned on the lights and said, okay, boys, practice tomorrow morning. We want to be in this spot, at the end of November. And I think that's where the focus started. And from that point on, we just developed each day to get to that point where we don't let that happen again, to where we needed 3 more seconds. So, we got to get there and make sure that we win the game convincingly within the 60 minutes.
Talk to us about the chemistry, which is so very important in any team sport, of course. But there seemed to be something going on here with, we'll talk about the offense. The defense needs an awful lot of the credit, too. But for your squad, Danny, that great receiving core you had, an incredible offensive line, it's almost as if they anticipated what their teammate, what the guy beside them was going to do. You read off each other quite well, didn't you?
We did. I mean, I think that goes from everywhere. It just wasn't myself and the receivers. I think the running backs and the offensive line did a great job in communication. But that was all happening through practice. Each day, there was always guys communicating, guys doing extra work because they knew what the end prize, what they wanted to get to. And they knew they had to all be on the same page. And I think that's very important to have a championship football team. And you have to have a coaching staff like we did that encourages that communication, that wants you guys to talk, to watch film together. I know Darren and Archie Amerson and Drew Grigg and Mike Morielli, they all would get together and they would see things that they would bring to myself and RD, and we would start to put them in the offensive game plan. But it also happened on defense as well. I mean, Calvin Tiggle talking to Rob Hitchcock, talking to Kyle Walters, and all those guys understanding what Sudsy wanted to do on defense and how can we get the ball back to the offense for them to score points.
Sudsy, Don Southern, of course, was the defensive coordinator.
Yes.
Had a brief time as a head coach for the Tiger Cats, too. And there was some concern there. I don't think he was given very many tools to work with, unfortunately. That changed when Coach Lancaster came on side. But I thought one of the most genius things that he did is one of the first phone calls I guess he made was to Sudsy and said, I want you on my staff.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it worked out because of the results that we've seen here. But it takes somebody with an awful lot of insight from both Sudsy's point and Coach Lancaster's to say, yeah, we can work together. We used to be rivals, but we can make this work. And they seem to be the two perfect guys for that team that year.
Absolutely. And both of them were the type of coaches that are for players. They want the players to succeed and put them in the best spot to be successful. But in 1997, I was with the Edmonton Eskimos with Lancaster and Darren, and we had to come into Hamilton to play a game. And we understood that their defense was top notch. They had a tough defense. And I think Coach Lancaster remembered that when he was putting his staff together at Hamilton when we all came over there, and wanted to make sure that Sudsy was able to keep that continuity with those defensive guys. And that was it. I mean, more on offensively, we just wanted to get some key players in the right positions and be able to make a run, because we knew defensively they were going to get us the ball back. They were a tough team from the opening kickoff to the end of the game, and we wanted to make sure offensively we were able to complement that.
I remember having a discussion. I was doing the TV show, CHTV show at that time, and Coach Lancaster came into the studio to be a guest on, and we were talking in the green room, the makeup before we started. Mm-hmm. And I said, he was bringing in, talking about some of the offensive linemen, and I said, there's a lot of changes. He said, well, we got to have that. He says, we're not going to win football games if Danny's on his butt in the backfield, So, and you had very few sacks that year. Those guys did their job.
They did a great job. I mean, I think that's a record that'll never be broken. If I remember right, it's only 7 sacks throughout the whole season. Great group of guys. It cost me a lot of steak dinners over at Lopresti's. So, but it's when you have guys like that play for each other, and in any football team, especially on the offensive side, you're only going to go as far as the front 5 will take you. Those guys got to work together as a group. And we had some great offensive linemen led by Carl Coulter, who got those guys to understand that nobody touches number 14. And I really appreciated that. And that always helps the body there. But I think one of the things is when they have that mentality, they look at a situation and want to make sure that nobody comes close. And that gives us a chance offensively to get the ball downfield and be able to run the football too. I mean, they did a great job, not only in pass protection, but they did a great job in opening holes for the run game as well.
You talked about Coach Lancaster and of course, Coach Sudsy as players, coaches. I mean, they treated you, I've heard from just about all of you singularly, they treated us like adults, like men.
Yes.
Forget this curfew thing, or you're going to be fine because you did this. You're your own liquor control board, you're your own everything. You have to look after yourselves, which wasn't totally true, because you had the guy beside you was looking out for you too. Because if you were letting yourself down, you were letting the team down.
Right.
But having said all that, you guys had a lot of fun that year. I mean, there was it was time to be serious. You were serious, but you knew how to let your hair down too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think it was coming from Coach Lancaster is that you guys are professionals. You're grown men. You know how to handle it, and you're only playing for the guy next to you. I mean, you got to understand whatever. If you come up short in a game, you let the guy down that was next to you. And we governed ourselves. We made sure that there was a certain time when guys were having a good time, but then when it came time to focus, you had to focus on the ball game, and we knew when to do that, and that was kind of run by the players in the locker room. And any time that Coach Lancaster had to get involved, it was something that was bigger than what we could handle, and he liked that part because we were able to almost, they call it monkey court or something like that, to where we take care of who the fines go to, what type of punishment you have to do. But our main focus was getting 3 good days of practice, and then focusing on the football game and doing what we needed to do. And the coaching staff did a great job of getting the fundamentals that we needed to be successful that week in the ball game.
What happened that day? The ball was kicked off. You'd lost to this team year before in the last play, as we mentioned. But you guys came out of the gate on all cylinders, and there was just as if you were driven. I know that was the attitude all through the season, but everything just seemed to click. When you're looking for Darren was there with Greg downfield, and the defense was incredible. Of course, there's got to be nerves. I mean, it's the Grey Cup, for heaven's sakes. It wasn't your first one, but I mean, it's still it's the Grey Cup. It's the championship game, and you don't want it to slip away like it did the year before. What's said in the locker room before that? Is it the coach, or is it each individual player that kind of gets them to that level?
Well, it was a very important game. I mean, we didn't want the same thing to happen again. You could feel that. There are nerves before that game, and we were the heavy favorite. But we knew Calgary was a very good ball club. I mean, Dave Dickinson is an outstanding quarterback. Mm-hmm. Defensively, they knew they had to get after him and create some short fields for us offensively, because Calgary's defense was very good. So I think from the beginning, it was just a matter of let's go set the tone early. Defense had it in their mind, let's get the ball to our offense. And offensively, we wanted to make sure we had some good drives that moved the ball down the field and keep Dave off the field. He can't do anything for their team if he's sitting on the sidelines. So we wanted to make sure we kept him over there. But everything was working. Everything that RD was calling and then everything that we were doing on the field seemed to be clicking. And when you have that momentum, you want to ride it out as long as you can. And I've always said the Grey Cup's the easiest game to play because it's the last game. I mean, it's a game that it is important, but just let everything go. You got 6 months to heal up. So guys were out there flying around, hitting each other. And I just think it was one of those focuses that we had, not just on that day, but it happened down at Brock University where Coach Lancaster flipped the lights on and told us practice 9 a.m. next day. This is where we want to be, is holding up that championship, and we had a chance to do that.
You're involved, of course, with the Blue Bombers now in scouting and capacity and bringing talent up from the north. And the Bombers, of course, have had, shall we say, a certain amount of success in the recent Grey Cups. Do you still get butterflies when it's time for kickoff and that's your team out there?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the only day I miss is game day. I get the butterflies beforehand, and you want to be out there. But then I realize, man, these guys are big; they're running fast, and I don't want any part of it. But you miss the competition, and now the competition is trying to find players that can come up and duplicate what you were able to do when you were playing, and you want to see that cheer on their face that you saw on your teammates' faces when they're able to hold on to that Grey Cup championship, because it's a prestigious award. Not many teams get a chance to hold that up, and it's only one person every year that's happy, and that's the team that's able to be able to have a couple drinks out of that cup and enjoy their party afterwards and have the parade. So you always shooting for that, day in, day out. Now it's all year long now, trying to find the right guys. And I enjoy that. I enjoy the challenge of trying to get the right guys to come up there and guys that Mike O'Shea and our coaching staff wants in Winnipeg to be able to run after a championship year in and year out.
What's that? Talk to us about, let's talk about this generation of coaches. When you were playing, of course, you just talked about Dave Dickinson. He was the quarterback for Calgary back in those days. O'Shea had a great career, a little bit in Hamilton, mostly with the Argos, and some great successes there. You've got others, Coach O here in Hamilton, of course. What's it tell you about the league that these guys get mentored and have moved on, and they've become the coaches of today?
Well, I think one thing you look at is that they love the CFL. I mean, they got an opportunity to play in the CFL, and two of those guys that you mentioned are American guys that stayed up there, and Coach O'Shea, being the Canadian that he is, he was born and raised on this. I mean, that's the one thing that he always emphasizes is how much he loves the CFL, and I know O and Dave are the same way, but it's the knowledge of the game and the guys that they had a chance to learn from, and I think that's very important, is where their coaching career started is, when they were players. It wasn't when they got out of football. It was while they were playing, and they had a desire to be a coach. And you see the fruits of the labor of not only as a player, but now where it's going to now is how they're developing their own team and going after championships as a coach.
Well, it's fabulous to see, the handing off of the ball, I guess, to see these sorts of things going. But those are usually the guys, and I'm sure you saw them in your locker room too. They're the ones that are asking questions. Why are we doing that, Coach? What's this good? And it's all being stored up in there. And there's a guy named Pinball that I think stuck around the league too, and he's had pretty good success.
Yes.
And yourself as well. It's always a pleasure, Danny, to talk with you about that and do a little bit of reminiscing. Stay well, and I know we'll see you up here around Grey Cup week. Everybody seems to gravitate to the game one way or another. But thank you so much for the time today for our kickoff show. Really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it, Bill. Thank you. I always enjoy Grey Cups, and looking forward to coming to the one in Hamilton.
You betcha. Thanks again. Danny McManus, one of the all-time great quarterbacks, and, of course, the most outstanding player in the 1999 Grey Cup. That is it for our first show. Lots more to come, of course, in the weeks ahead, and with some other great guests like Danny McManus and so many other great players in the Canadian Football League. So until next time, thank you so very much. You can find our TiCat Audio Network, by the way, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. Until next time, Countdown to Grey Cup. I'm Bill Kelly, delivered by Purolator. You take care. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening to Countdown to the Grey Cup with Bill Kelly, delivered by Purolator. The 2023 Grey Cup Festival takes place in Hamilton the week of November 13th, with the 110th Grey Cup happening at Tim Hortons Field on November 19th. For more information, go to greycupfestival.ca.